Ready? Okay. Hello. Good morning. My name is Michael Verdi, and I'm going to talk to you, yes, about how we support the entire world at Mozilla. So I work on the Sumo project, which is short for support.mozilla.org. Sometimes it does feel like wrestling. Yeah. So I am probably going to forget everything that I wanted to tell you this morning. So I'm the content manager. There's a lot of pieces involved in this, so let me try to explain. So this is a support project for Mozilla. We have a whole bunch of products, some of which I hope you've used, like Firefox is the big one. We also have Firefox for Android, kind of just really starting out, and coming soon, later this summer, Firefox OS, a whole operating system for phones. So that's like 450 million people all across the world. Most of them are the Firefox users. Hopefully, we'll grow that number, right? And they'll be using Firefox for Android. They'll be using Firefox OS. Fun fact, literally on every continent, including Antarctica, we have Firefox users there. Like 80 different languages, plus or minus a few. So how do we do that? So we have on our support team, there's like 13 paid staff people. I think we have 3 developers. They're technically a different team. Just like 2 years ago, we only had 4 people working on the support team. So how we do that, so to not really, hopefully this isn't like a spoiler, but we write a lot of documentation, we put it on the internet, and then we localize it into lots of languages, like 80 of them, right? But the real way that we do this is with a bunch of superheroes, right? Like these guys. So this is about 600 or so Mozillians from a couple of years ago. And at really any given time, there's about 200 plus so people working on Sumo, on the support site, in some form or fashion. So we have a lot of, basically we have a posse. That's the only way to get it done, right? This is what I wanted to tell you, though, about that. So unlike, I guess there's different kinds of superheroes. We're not like the Superman kind of superhero. There's no heat vision or anything like that, or flying. It's more like the Batman, cool technology kind of stuff, right? So the first thing that we do, we try to like whittle the problem down, right? So the first part of this, before sometimes writing documentation, hopefully, so we try to do some things proactively, right? So what we do is we set up a big force field around Planet Firefox, right? We're trying to ward off invaders. So I'll warn you now, I think this is it, but I'm just going to use all the metaphors, right? So, my job is like superhero, Fox, Batman, fighting sumo warriors and aliens from space. I'll just use them all. So we do a couple of things. We actually have a kind of sub-team of our support team, user advocacy, and they do things like, hey, let's try to fix things before they're problems, so we don't have to document the broken stuff, right? They say, hey, how about let's get this bug fixed, or why don't we rethink this? Like, for instance, we've had trouble with certain add-ons, so we come up with ideas about how do we make that not be a problem anymore. Let's have that be awesome instead of a problem. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then another thing that we do is let's take the documentation to the user. Like, instead of making them come to the website and figure this out for themselves, what if we show them stuff when they need it? I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then everything that gets through that force field, that's the reactive support. And I'll talk about that too in a little bit. So, okay, so education. So here's a few things that we're doing now, and I'm going to tell you about some stuff that we will be doing. So over there on the left side, yeah. All over the Mozilla website, when you go to read about Firefox, what does it do, why should I download it, and stuff, they describe it. It's a marketing website. But everywhere, hopefully possible, we link to support documentation. So that has video tutorials, specific step-by-step examples, how do you accomplish things. So we put that stuff, we try to connect that to our marketing all the time. So, it's this other one, this is just last week, we launched Firefox 20. So when we pitch stories to news sites, to bloggers, we also give them support documentation. Like, so this video about the we changed the way the download manager works. So I made a video about it, and that's in our support documentation, and then that becomes part actually of our marketing, and gets linked on websites. So like, I don't know, some ridiculous 60,000 people watched this little video about the download manager last week, which is pretty nice. So now they don't even need to, if they were confused about that, they don't have to come to the website anymore. Okay, so advocacy, I was talking about those guys too. So besides, like, it's good to fix things ahead of time. It would be nice if we could, make software that never broke, that never had problems or bugs. That would be super great. But also, another thing we want to do is make it easy for people to recover when there is a problem. So one of the first things that we did was I noticed we have a lot of documentation about troubleshooting with like lots and lots of steps. Okay, from the really simple, let's restart your computer. Let's open Firefox. Is it still broken? Okay, now what? Right? And 8 or 9 steps later, maybe half an hour or 45 minutes of troubleshooting later, you could narrow the problem down and fix that one little thing. And it was a lot of work. And so we said, why can't we just automate this? Can we make a button that does all of this at once and probably fix the problem in a few seconds? And so we did. Now, it's tucked away in a place you'll never find it. So unless you come to the support site and we tell you, hey, go click the button, and that'll fix it. Which we found, by the way, fixes like about 80% of the time when you go, what's the problem? Oh, click the reset thing, that'll fix it. Like 80% of the time it really does, totally fixes it. And it takes like 3 seconds to do. So we said, hey, we should offer that in better places. Like, on Windows, people try to reinstall Firefox all the time. And they complain to us, I reinstalled Firefox and it didn't do anything. And because it doesn't actually do anything, except just puts another copy of the files on your computer. That's all it does. So it doesn't fix a thing. So we said, hey, we should maybe we can we'd say, hey, it looks like you already have the same version of Firefox. Maybe you want to reset it instead if you're trying to fix it. So we're working on that. Or all kinds of things. A fun, fabulous thing that lots of Windows software likes to do is when it installs it on your computer, they put these little checkboxes that are pre-checked to change all the defaults of all the other software on your computer. And one thing that they like to change are your search preferences in all your browsers and stuff. We've got like 4 different preferences, and only one of them has like an affordance in the actual UI. And the other 3, you have to like go somewhere special and type in hidden commands to change. And we said, hey, that's becoming a problem because people can't change them all. We should just make it all one preference that they can change from the UI. So we're working on that now. But that's one of the things that the advocacy team says, this stuff's too hard for people. Please, let's do something. So hopefully that results in less people. Put me out of a job is the idea, what we're trying to do. Okay, so we do education. I forgot one thing I wanted to say about the education stuff. So those are the things that we're doing right now. We're also working on a project to do this a lot more, well, just more thought out. So when you install Firefox for the first time, we should teach you about it. If you are upgrading Firefox, we should maybe tell you about how those new things work, right? Maybe 3 months after you've been using it, we should show you some other cool things. Or maybe in the program itself, when we've changed something, right there, we should probably have the program actually show you what in the world. Hey, that button that used to be here, we moved it. It's over here now, so you know. So you don't have to come to support to go, why'd they move the button? Okay, but some things will get through that force field, right? And so then we have to react to it. And for that, we have this software, Kitsune, going on, following along with our Japanese sumo wrestling, although I don't know if that has anything to do with sumo wrestling. It's just another Japanese word, I think. Fox, yeah. Okay, anyway, that's a software that our developers wrote that powers our support site, right? And so we have a whole bunch of components to it. We have a knowledge base. We have a question and answer style support forum. We have a Twitter client. It's got a search engine. It's got all kinds of internal communications. We have message boards. Documents have message boards. We have private messaging that emails you when you get a private message. We have all kinds of metrics and dashboards and graphs to let you know how things are working. So, but the thing that I'm going to skip most of that, and what I really want to talk to you about is the knowledge base, right? So, this is where it gets into the cool Batman tech, right? So we have wiki-based documents. They use formatting, like MediaWiki type formatting, but we've ramped it up and added all kinds of special things to it. So our documents are all fully localizable. They support multiple, the whole website supports multiple products, and then we support multiple product versions and multiple operating systems. I'll show you an example in a minute. We have templates, so hopefully, for the most part, you don't have to write things twice. You have to do these steps over and over again, put it in a template, then reuse the template all over the place. We have a review system that I'll show you because this also helps us when we localize things. We have all kinds of metrics and dashboards, which I'll show you. Okay. So here's one of the cool things. Yeah, you can't really see this too well. But okay, so this is an example from private browsing. So in Firefox, there's this thing called private browsing, right? It doesn't save. You turn on private browsing, and then Firefox is not saving history or cookies and all kinds of stuff, right? So it works differently in Firefox 19 than it does in Firefox 20. It also works differently in Windows 7 than it does in Windows XP or on a Mac or in Linux or something. So all in one document, we can put all those instructions there. And then when you show up to read it, we say, oh, look, you have Firefox 19 and you're on Windows 7, so we show you those instructions over there on the left. Or it says, oh, you have Firefox 20, so we'll show you the new instructions. Or you have a Mac, we'll show you the other instructions, like that. So it's pretty cool. Gosh, okay, so we have this, when you're writing documents, we have this editor that actually one of our volunteers made for us, which is pretty cool. So it does syntax highlighting. So you can separate all the wiki markup around the words that you're writing, so you can actually read the words that you're writing, which is really helpful when writing things. You'll see that, like, there's an example up there in that top box. I don't know if you can read that. It says for win, comma, Mac, and at the bottom there's a closing for tag. That's kind of our extension. It's our extra media wiki markup for showing a set of instructions for a certain operating system. So there, that would show only to Windows users and Mac users. If you were on Linux, you wouldn't see what was between those tags. There's some other cool things that we've added to this over time. So that middle second thing there is a title of an article. And that's a link, right? That's a wiki link to a named document. But what's really neat about that is, for localization, once you've created a localization of that document, Flash 11.3 doesn't load video in Firefox, and you name it whatever it is in French or Spanish or something, and we change the article, we change the name of the English article in all the documents that link to it. You don't have to actually localize in the document. You don't have to localize the link. You just leave it in English, and when it renders, it'll pull, if this is the French version of the page, it'll just pull the French version of the title and stick it in there, even if we've changed the English title 5 times in between. I don't know. Maybe I'm boasting about the 5 times, but I think I'm pretty sure it'll work. And then templates. That's just markup for a template. So we try to put a lot of things in templates when we can, so you don't have to keep writing the same steps over and over again. Okay, and we have a review system. So we have cool diffs that show you exactly what's going on with line numbers that you can match up to the editor. You can go, oh, okay, this thing on line 16 changed. We have different revision levels, and we have a localization flag ready for localization. So we use this so that we can, our groups that are localizing things are often small groups, and our documents are long. There's a lot of information. They have screenshots. There's all kinds of stuff, and most of them are all volunteers. So we want to make it as easy as possible. So if we just make a small change that doesn't really change the instructions from a user's point of view, we mark it as the first revision level. Localizers never even get those notifications. We don't even tell them about it. Only when the instructions are going to change. Okay, now we've updated the actual instructions. That's a second level, and they'll get notified about that. Or the third level is like, oh my God, everything's broken. You have to change the instructions right now, or people will lose data and stuff. And that's the third one, and puts a big message on the article if they haven't updated it that says, there's an important update to this article. You might want to check the English version, that kind of thing. But all in this review process, we handle the revision levels and the localization flags. We say this is ready to be localized. We give feedback to the people who edited the document. And there's also notes for like a to-do list. We have a list of things. So you can clear the notes, like this revision solves all the things on the to-do list, and then you can take it off. Or you can thank you. Or you can add stuff. You say, there's some things to add to the list. We have all kinds of, oh gosh, okay, so I'll explain this graph. There's a line, and it goes kind of horizontal, and then it jumps up, and then it gets horizontal again, right? And what that is that's the survey that we do on each article. Was this article helpful or not? So it went up a bunch on this one article, and that's connected to revisions over time. So you can see, oh look, we changed the article, and more people, like 15% more, said yes, this was helpful. This way we can look and say, what the heck did we do? In this case, it was we combined two articles, and there was kind of missing instructions in this article. We added them to it. People said, hey, that's good. Thanks for adding the missing instructions. So it goes up. So it works the other way, too. Yeah, I'll show you on here, too. So we have a dashboard where we can organize our work. So we have a list of our most visited articles, things that need to be, changes that people have made that need to be reviewed. So nothing goes live right away. We have this system, so everything has to be reviewed, but then we have different policies about articles. The more popular an article is, the more stringent we are on the reviews. You know, if only 100 people are looking at this article out of the 21 million that come to the website, we say, ooh, just approve it, unless it's like completely wrong or something, right? That kind of stuff. We have a list of things that need to be changed, things that are not marked ready for localization yet, and unhelpful documents. So just like I was showing that graph where it goes up, on the documents where it goes down, we keep a list of those. So you can go and look and say, hey, what did we do to this thing? So we also, not in here yet, we also collect answers to that survey. So when people say, no, this wasn't helpful, we ask them a follow-up question, why it wasn't helpful. And we collect all that information. So we don't have a good way to display that yet, but you can query the database and find out what people are saying. Okay, so that's all cool, right? All those cool super wiki powers and everything, working on all those documents, but that actually only accounts for half of our visits to our support site, right? Only about half of the people are using Firefox in English. So what do we do about the other half? Luckily, there's kind of a bit of a long tail in locales. So English, the first locale, takes up about half of our traffic. The next 10 account for 40%, and then everything else is that little pie down there, right, 10%. But the thing is some of those locales in the little yellow piece are still getting 150,000 visits a month. Some of them tens of thousands of visits a month. So not like, that's still a good number of people that need help. So we need to do things like take this article about the awesome bar and turn it into this thing that I won't even try to pronounce, but doesn't even say awesome, because I guess that doesn't work in French. So we have to go get those guys, right, to come and help. So here's kind of how this works. So on the support site, if you're just browsing around, let's say you are in France and you go to look up, you may run into an article that's in English. And if you do, you'll see over here on this side, I have left and right completely mixed up, but over on this side, there's a message that you cannot read that's in yellow that says, hey, we haven't translated this yet. Maybe you would like to help us. And there's a link, and that goes to our documentation about localizing documentation, right, and how to get started. So we have all kinds of, for English and for localization, we have a zillion documents about documents, right? But let's say you've already created an account, you know how to do this. You can just click the button on the other side to localize the article. And then we have this cool kind of side-by-side editor. So the English source code is on the left, and then you get the cool editor on the right. If you're just translating it for the first time, it's the same stuff on both sides, right? And then you can just delete the English stuff and write the stuff in French or Spanish or whatever, like that. And it leaves, so you can put things like the wiki markup, you don't have to rewrite, it's there. You just localize the stuff in between, that kind of thing. But how do you know what's important to work on? So we have a lot of articles, but luckily there's also sort of a long tail of visits or of popular articles. So the top 20 or so articles account for about half the traffic to our articles. And then it really starts dropping off, right? So the next 30 give you like, I can't even read, 20% more. Then 50 more gets you 15% more. And then the last 150 is that last little piece of the pie, right? So what that means is a small team, 1 or 2 people, can spend a couple of, maybe a weekend or 2, and knock out most of the documentation in terms of amount of traffic, not in terms of most of the documents, and help a whole lot of people. So we have dashboards for localization, right? So people can figure out what to work on. So this one is in French, and sadly I cannot read French. So this is it sort of in English. You can't really read that anyway, but it's got, this is just the top of the dashboard, but there's a little progress bar. So in here they have 19 of 20 of those top 20 documents are done. This says models, but it's templates. They have 68% of the templates done, 100% of the navigation pages done, and they have 87% of the entire corpus done, right? So there's all kinds of things, like this section's about untranslated documents, so here's all the untranslated documents, but it has view information about it. So, the top document on here is like 8,000 views in 30 days, but if you look on other dashboards, like under the most viewed, there's a document that needs to be updated that has like 140,000 views over the last month. So that's where you start. Start with the ones that more people are looking at, right? And then when you're updating a document that's already been localized, now you get the cool diffs connected to the cool text editor. So, man, you can't even see. But anyway, the diffs have line numbers, like that box over on that side is line 1, and this box over here is line 1 of the previous version, so you can see the red things were deleted, the green things were added, and this is where you're changing it over here, so you can, makes it super easy to go through. I was looking at this, and I said, oh, look, because they're not word changes, and here this is like changing a link, I'm like, I could do it, even. I can change that part. And then there's like, down here, there's a bunch of like deleted code. I'm like, good, I can delete code, that's easy. I'm working on French. Yep. So that's all cool. And then we also release Firefox and everything else every 6 weeks. So stuff changes constantly. So that's like a whole other problem. Awesome. So that's a whole other problem. So 6-week release cycles, man, how do we keep up with it? So we do a couple of things. Like those top 20 documents that they get the most views. We kind of are more stringent about the review of those documents. We also tell our localizers, look, unless it's an emergency, we're only gonna touch those documents at the most every 6 weeks. So what we do is we have that localization flag. So let's say there's going to be a change like this last time, private browsing changed, right? So private browsing, the article about it is like our 3rd most popular article. We haven't changed it in months though. So no one's had to update that article. But now there's changes, so we made a whole bunch of revisions trying to get it all right, probably 10 different revisions, but we didn't mark any of them. We approved them as we went along, but we didn't mark any of them ready for localization. So as far as localizers are concerned, nothing's happening yet. And then 4 weeks before the release, we're like, okay, everything we think is done. Let's mark this ready for localization. They get notified in email or it shows up on the dashboard, and now they can update this article. Now, unless we've like totally messed it up or there's something, unless there's some emergency, we're not going to touch that again for 6 more weeks. So we'll let them localize it. It'll be ready for the release, and then we can keep editing the article in English. But unless it's super important, we won't mark it ready for localization. So that's one of the ways that we help people try to keep up with everything. So that is really about it. There's a bunch of stuff I didn't get to talk about. I didn't even talk about localizing videos, which we are just starting to do. That's a whole nother crazy thing. Yeah, so we only have a few more minutes, so if you have questions, by the way, that's my contact stuff. And I'll also display, this is the link for these slides. If you want them, they're on the web. Maybe I will also update them with notes of the stuff that I actually said. We'll see. Thank you. Sure.
Hi.
That's a slash between the A and the W, sorry. Terrible font. Oh my God, for this. mzl.la/WTD. Write the docs.
It's also on your first slide, too, and it's a bit easier to read.
It is on.
Some of us have been looking at the slides on our screen.
Okay.
Hi. Over here.
Hi.
First question over here. So with all the different tools to revise articles and check when things are out of date and the metrics, does the entire team share those responsibilities, or are there people that, like, the only thing they do is they look at those metrics and they assign those out and delegate?
So let's see. Here's how it kind of works. So we have someone that is like the support coordinator that's part of the paid staff for each product, right? So we have someone that is a coordinator for Firefox, which is me, Firefox for Android, Firefox OS. I also serve the other role as a content manager, which does a lot of just organizing people and stuff. But we also have we have a small but growing community of people who work on these documents. So organizing it, we sort of have a schedule. So we go through like a research phase where look, here's all the things I think have changed in this product, in this product, in this product. Now, out of these things, this really isn't user-facing. No one's going to care about that. These 3 things we should document. We need a new article for this. So we talk about this. We have an internal, we have a discussion forums. So we have a discussion forums about articles in general, and then each article has its own discussion forum. So if we have a private browsing, we want to talk about the changes we're going to make to this, we have a whole discussion forum just about private browsing. But when we're talking about Firefox 20, we have a discussion forum that's about articles, where we do things like research what's coming up, who should take, I'll do this one, you do that one, that kind of stuff.
Okay, and next question, anybody? Oh, I see one.
If I understood correctly, you enlist a bunch of people from your company as well as just people in your department to do documentation beyond what you do in the community.
Yes.
How do you get permission to use those people? Since I'm assuming that's not their daily job. How is that just part of the company culture that people are expected to help contribute to the support site, or is that something you have to get permission from their managers or their department leads, that sort of thing?
Oh no. Okay. So. Yes, it is a bit about culture. I always feel like I'm always trying to get more people to do it. So it seems like we have a sort of a group of developers who are always really good about, they work on a feature and they come help document it, or at least take a first pass or something. But we also have developers that go answer questions in our forum. Because you get to talk sometimes one-on-one with somebody who's having a problem. They're like, this thing doesn't work. And they're like, well, I wrote it. It should work. And, so in Mozilla, there's no, you don't have to ask permission. And I always, yeah, we have a number of people who do. I wish there was more, but I'm always encouraged when people do the stuff that they do. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? One upstairs? Great. Pass the baton.
Yell it out.
What's it? Okay, yell it.
So the tools that you guys use for the revisions and the internationalization, they look pretty cool and pretty well done. Are those tools open source at all?
Yes, everything's open source. So actually, just recently, some of the libraries that we were using for those charts, like the helpfulness thing, those weren't open source, so we changed them. There's a few seft to change, but most of them are all, even those are all open source libraries too. So, and I think tomorrow, James Sokol is going to talk, and he manages the developers who write all this too, so he may say something about that.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. Anybody else with a question? No? I don't see any hands. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.